Thank you, and welcome back to Race Industry Week 2023. Mr. Kirshner, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Been a good day so far, it sounded like.
Has been. Anything in particular you that resonated with you? I mean, those sessions were unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm a racer fan, and Tony Stewart and John Force, you can't beat those guys any day.
And the little surprise with Linda as well was pretty good.
We really had
Yes,
three
for sure.
strong, racing personalities in a row when you think about it. John, Tony, Linda, you just never know what's going to be said.
And we started with the day with some pretty big names in the Formula One world too, right? And I think next we have Stephan Papadakis with us, who a brilliant mind. And so Stephan should be with us in a second. That's going to be very exciting.
Hello, Stephan. You're on mute.
Hi there.
So welcome.
Thanks for having
We're
me.
excited to have you on. You know, Stephan, I was thinking about this. We have a mutual friend that we just lost, JC Concialdi. He's the founder of AEM Electronics, which was sold to Holly, and he's an investor with us, really helped guide us, kind of nudged us into doing webinars. Now look at us now. So
yeah, he was one of my first sponsors and a mentor to me,
yes.
as he was, I think, to many.
Yeah.
So
thank
to
you
JC
for being with us.
Yeah.
To JC. Thank you, Stephan. Mike, you're in charge.
All right, I'll take it away. Stephan, thank you for joining us today. I personally knew of you, but I've learned a lot about you in the last couple of days, and look forward to talking to you about many of the things you've accomplished and what might be ahead for you. Why don't we start off by, how did you start Papadakis Racing, and how did the company evolve to what it's become today?
Sure. So I started off here in Southern California as just an enthusiast, like everybody, like most people in the motorsport, just loved cars and loved racing my car. And after high school, worked for a place called JG Engine Dynamics that was doing performance engines and tuning like the front wheel drive Hondas and smaller tuner cars. This would have been in the mid 90s, late 90s. And after a couple of years there, a friend and I opened up a shop in Santa Ana in Orange County here, California, where we did engine swaps. We would take the larger engines out of the Acura Integra or Honda Prelude and put them in the smaller cars like the Honda Civics. And, that's an old time recipe where you take the high horsepower, bigger engine, you put in the smaller, lightweight chassis. Well, we were, doing that on these, more modern front wheel drive cars. And that whole scene really blew up, in the around 2000 and with the import drag racing scene and Fast and Furious movies. And it really caught on, not only in Southern California, but on the East Coast. And, obviously it was in Japan at the time, but then globally. And it's just been a run ever since. We did a lot of drag racing with some of the import series like NIRA, like Naira, that was the Nopi series, and NHRA Sport Compact, and then later did some stuff at the NHRA actual national events. And then about 15 years ago, moved over to the drifting scene and haven't really looked back. Like the drifting stuff has been really fun, really thin rule book, so we can build these really extreme cars, huge diversity of vehicles and people. And we do that till today.
How did that happen? How did you get from drag racing to drifting?
Well, drag racing was really fun because we're building engines and you can go out there with not a lot of sophistication and just hit the drag strip, and as long as you can get to the other end and pass tech and be relatively safe, you can do it. And it was fun building engines and that whole scene of different car clubs and smack talking and stuff like that. But after 10 plus years of going to different quarter-mile drag strips and I just kind of wanted to do some turns, and I would dabble a little bit in road racing and some other stuff. But the drifting was really young and fresh back then in the around 2005-ish. and I'd kind of backdoored motorsport through the import drag racing scene, and going through the traditional routes into road racing, where it was a bit challenging and took a large budget and a lot of know-how and experience that, you know, me at that time in my late 20s would have been challenging. But the drifting, you know, it was young, and we just went all in. We built some cars, one for Tanner Faust, one for myself. Formula Drift was really starting to pick up here in the US, and it was getting global recognition, and it all just really worked out. It was fun, you know, new tracks, everything was, the tracks were different every time. The cars were, no one really knew how to build proper, good drift cars, so we were learning on that end as well. And it's just fun being a trailblazer and working with, you know, sometimes you just don't know the answer. There hasn't been anybody there doing it before you.
Yeah.
And that's where we found ourselves.
Innovation for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of been a motivating factor throughout my career, is trying to innovate.
You've earned millions of views on your various engine assembly and teardown videos on YouTube. What inspired you to jump into content creation and putting those videos out there so people could see them?
Yeah, I'm a big consumer of, you know, social media and definitely YouTube videos. You know, I attend the University of YouTube when I want to learn how to do stuff, whether it's something small like, you know, change a belt on something, or if it's something big like when I was learning how to use a CNC machine and program it and tooling and all that stuff. You know, I definitely have friends and forums and stuff that I'd found on the web, but I was watching a lot of YouTube. And me being a motorsport fan, I wanted to find more insight into like some of these high-end race cars and how they were built. But traditional motorsports, for good reason, you know, a lot of the teams don't want to share how they build their drag race cars or their NASCARs or their Indy cars or whatever, or dynoing these engines. And it's a shame, because I really like to watch how and learn how these cars are built. But everybody's so protective because they want to win and they don't want to give any secrets away. And I think that's, you know, I felt that they were missing out on a big opportunity for fan base for their teams. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's the sponsors and partners that help fund what we do within our drift team. And I thought it was a great opportunity to just, you know, let's just show how we build these motorsport cars, these drift cars, what goes into it, and build some content that I would want to watch. And it was a windfall for us. Like, people really resonated with that. They loved seeing behind the scenes. They loved learning how these cars were built. And it turned out to be some really good content, and it was really fun to make.
It'd be something if they really offered a degree from the University of YouTube. Were you surprised at the reaction of viewers, consumers, fans from those videos?
I was totally surprised. One of the first videos that did well for us was an engine teardown of one of our 4-cylinder Toyota turbocharged nitrous engines. And it was rare that you could see inside somebody's, you know, competition engine, and they're like, all right, well, you know what, that's fine. We'll just let everybody check everything out. And there wasn't anybody at the time building one of these engines, so it's not like we were going to give some secrets away that was going to, you know, be used against us on track in some way. Even if we were, you know what, I try to be more offensive in all of this, and just have the confidence and say, you know, we might show some secrets that they might step up a competitor's game, but you know what, that's fine. We're going to stay ahead, and we're going to and do what we do and not worry about that. And so anyways, I just started creating some content. First, some shorter than 1 minute content for my Instagram, because these big long form YouTube videos was a big task in filming and editing and getting the whole thing out. So I started with the short ones, and then finally did a couple of longer ones for YouTube, and it hit, and just kept trying to step up our game of putting together a piece, like a video that people want, that is engaging and people can watch, and you don't have to keep fast forwarding and dig through.
Yeah.
So that was a skill or a technique that I actually learned a lot from watching YouTube videos on how to make YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So I went to the YouTube University on how to make YouTube videos. And what's amazing is, and I've told the story before, but it was just this crazy situation where some of the folks that were teaching how to make YouTube videos were really good at making YouTube videos. I mean, of course. So I was using those formats and taking a format on, or it would be also be like a situation where I'm learning how to use this camera. So I got this new camera and a lens and a microphone, and the folks that are making content on reviews of those products or how it works or how to use it were really good at formatting a video with, this is what we're going to work on today, and then going through the whole process and then filming it well and having their audio quality well, and then sort of finishing the video in a nice way. And then so I would use some of those formats that they were using for reviewing camera stuff, but in the automotive space. And it worked out quite well. So I still watch some of those videos nowadays on how to, make better content.
If you can't find it on YouTube, you probably can't find it anywhere, right?
Yeah, and what a lot of people were building were filming YouTube videos in a format that might be normal for like television or broadcast. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't necessarily work in the YouTube world. Like they would. So here's a little trick, that I learned is, first you got to get somebody to click on your thumbnail, right? Like have an interesting title and have an interesting, thumbnail and make them want to click it. But they're literally this far away from going away from that. They're not trapped
That's right.
in a movie theater. They didn't pay any money to be there. Like if that's not what they want immediately, they're
gone. That's right.
They may be gone. So instead of trying to have some exciting moment later in the video and build towards it, I just give it to them right at the beginning. Like whatever I said I was going to give them in the title and the thumbnail, you know what? You click on this, you get it right away. I'm not going to make you wait for it. And hopefully I've got your attention. And then, we'll start with a little bit of a story after that. But I hate to make people wait for what they're clicking on, keep them in suspense.
Yeah, that's smart. What was the first engine building project that you took on, and how did that turn out?
Yeah, the first engine building project on YouTube or just generally in
general.
Oh, okay. I was building engines for my own cars back in the late 90s. I didn't have much money to go to an engine builder, so I just sort of worked for an engine builder. So that that's what you did before the University of YouTube was you went to school for it, or you worked for someone that had that skill that you wanted to learn. So after high school, instead of going to college, I just worked for this Javier Gutierrez at JG Engine Dynamics and swept the floor and answered phones and learned as much as I could about how to build engines. And eventually, one of the perks of working at an engine place was I could work on my own engine there after hours. And through the process of reading the service manual of how these, so I had a Honda 4-cylinder engine. And I think the first one that I did was a Honda CRX engine. And so I've got the Honda service manual, paper manual. At the time, they were made very well with a lot of really good steps. And I just followed the procedure along with what I was learning at the engine building shop. And eventually that's how I built my first engine.
Fascinating. What makes you look at, I saw some of the cars in some of your videos, look at an ordinary car like a Toyota Celica or what have you and say, wow, I think I can make that into a high performance machine?
Well, when the cars we had when I was 16 or 18 and friends and stuff, you just kind of end up with the car that you had. Maybe that's the one that your family got you, and it wasn't really a Ford Mustang or 5.0 or something like that. I didn't grow up in a gearhead family, so I just had a little Econo Honda Civic, but it was the SI model, and I had other friends with those cars, and those were the cars that we we learned to modify, and there was already a scene for that a little bit, before us in Southern California, but definitely in Japan, where they were racing, Toyota Celicas and rally racing stuff. And globally, 4-cylinder front wheel drive were legitimate race cars, not necessarily so much in the US. Oscar Jackson was doing it with the Honda CRXs, and there was some SCCA stuff. So there definitely was some inspiration that we were getting. But when we'd go to the drag racing track with our front wheel drive cars, there weren't many. It wasn't necessarily that well accepted, but there was, Frank Choi had Battle of the Imports, and that was at Palmdale, California, the late Los Angeles County Raceway up in Lancaster. And there were a few places for us to go. And there was also NHRA had the street legal drags at Pomona. Big Willie had the Terminal Island Raceway in Long Beach. There were definitely some places for us to go that wasn't just the street racing. And I took as much advantage of those as I could. And you ended up finding like-minded people that also loved race their car, but weren't going the traditional route. And we had a lot of fun innovating.
Race team wise, you've been successful with sponsorship with your team. What advice would you give to racers and team owners about obtaining and keeping sponsors?
Yeah. I think in this day and age, if you're not in traditional motorsport, NASCAR, IndyCar, some of those, I don't have a lot of insight on those because I haven't competed at that level or in those series. But the place that we're at, which is I would call like the younger multicultural demographic, the enthusiast market, it's doing things and building cars and getting it out there, whether it's YouTube or social media or at large, Formula Drift or some of these events where you have a big following, and use the word influencer, right? So that word's thrown a lot of but it's a real thing. There's real influencers. You talk about Ken Block, you talk about like Brian Deegan, you talk about some of these folks that did not come up through traditional motorsport, but as race car drivers, I think you can argue that they're larger than some of the championship winning traditional race car drivers. And they've done that through building and competing in cars and having projects that enthusiast, which is a giant market, the enthusiast automotive market or scene, and getting them interested in stuff that you're doing. And then companies and brands and they want to be part of that. And so, I think fundamentally you need to do stuff that people want to see and people want to engage with. And the hope is, and sometimes it definitely does work out, where you've got partners and sponsors or companies that want to partner with you in those endeavors.
Are there any challenges in the motorsports industry that you'd like to tackle in the future?
As far as like component in car or professionally?
Yeah, it could be anything. It could be racing. It could be a special kind of car that you've never tackled, or a Formula One engine, whatever it might be that you've always thought about but never dove into.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun right now with the drifting and building the drift cars and building some content around that. I think there's still some work to do there. Drifting is going strong. The Formula Drift series has been doing very well, especially through COVID. And on the other side of that, unlike a lot of other series, they were able to stay strong through that. But internationally, there's a lot of growth happening in the drifting space, and I'm having a lot of fun, meeting people from other countries, and they come into the US and they come into some of our events and they're building series out there. And I think there's still opportunity to build pro level drift cars, potentially for some of these international markets. And there's only one company, and they're in Latvia, Europe, that's making like a pro level car that people can buy. And so that's something I wanted to work into. And so now that we've built these Toyota vehicles, the Supra and the GR86, to levels where they're really competitive and really reliable, I think that'd be fun and exciting to have these level cars available for people to purchase and compete with internationally.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So many forms of motorsports, you can buy everything you need right off the shelf.
Yeah, the thing I think with the drift cars is there's so many different platforms and there's so many different, tastes for the drivers and a huge budget range from obviously the grassroots guy that's doing it in his garage or girl, all the way up to the pro level team, some international teams that they just want to buy the best car and have some spares for it. And that market's still growing. And it's kind of coming full circle to where, I worked at a place that built engines, and then I was building cars for other people at one point, and then now we just do our own stuff to, maybe in the next few years we go back to not only competing but building high-end cars.
Tell us a little bit about your drifting team and how that operates. You got 2 full-time drivers, how many crew members, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so we run three main cars. So we've got Frederick Osbo, who runs GR Supra, the new Mark V Supra that we've built for him, and we campaign. And that's a very traditional motorsport sponsorship deal where we have sponsors and they help fund the whole program, and then we hire Frederick as a driver, and he's definitely a partner with us, not just a hired driver, but we collaborate on everything. We build the car, we go to all these different events, and hopefully at the end, we make some money to keep everything going. We also work with Ryan Turk, who's huge in the social and YouTube space. He's got a lot of different projects, a lot of stuff that he builds on his own. But we handle his GR Corolla that we run in Formula Drift. So we built that car, we maintain it. He comes in, and again, he has a lot of ideas on how to tune it and everything, but he drives the car, and he has some sponsors, and we have some, so we partner in that one together, but we handle all logistics in the car and everything. And so that's car number 2. And then we also work with Jonathan Castro. So he's a professional driver out of Dominican Republic, and he has his own sponsors. He has his own program in Dominican Republic. He also does a lot of driving and consulting in other Latin America countries for other drift series. And we handle his form of the drift program with the GR86. And so we've built that car for him, and we handle all of the updates and logistics and everything for him. But he's a global international driver that works with Toyota. So we work with those 3 factory Toyota teams, and we're the factory Toyota team in drift.
All right, very nice. How many Formula Drift races are there a year?
There's 8. So everything from California, Florida, New Jersey, Washington State. We're all over the place. And it's a good series amount. So we start in April, we end in October.
That's so about one a month.
And we have it's about one a month, right? And I'm working with the same crew. We have 4 or 5 full-time guys here at the shop, but on the weekends, we're 15 or 17 of us out there.
Yeah, like a drag racing team, you bring some fly-in type of guys in, sort of thing.
Exactly. And sometimes when we're building a car, we'll bring more people in when we're building a car. But we've been working with some of the same guys for 10, 15 years, even from the drag racing years. And I think one of the reasons is the series is not overloading us on too many weekends. We don't get burnt out.
Right.
Definitely by the end of the year, we're a bit exhausted. Don't get me wrong. But it's a manageable amount, especially for some of our international guys like Jonathan. He can come in from Dominican Republic and nail all of those 8 events and be well rested and still do a lot of stuff globally. And I think that's important, right? Where a lot of the drivers, including Frederick and Ryan and other drivers within the series, they have other stuff that they do internationally, whether it's in Europe or Asia, wherever, and they can run a full Formula Drift series and also do their other endeavors.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what gives you the bigger thrill, building an engine from the ground up, or back when you were in the seat of the car and actually making a run, whether it's the drag strip or on a drifting course or whatever it may be?
Yeah, it's a good question. They're so different. You know, if I had to choose one or the other, it'd probably be building cars, building engines. And I made that decision, you know, about 7 or 8 years ago when I retired from driving professionally and realized, you know, guys like Tanner Faust and Frederick Osbo and Ryan, they're better than me at it on the track. Like, they have great focus, they have an amazing amount of talent, they do it all the time. You know, I just said, you know, I think I'm better at driving, or sorry, I'm better at, you know, running the team and building the cars and all that stuff. And then when you get the premier driver, you can get a premier team, and you've got sponsors and partners that really make good product and want to support it. You end up with a combination that you can go out there and win championships, and we've been fortunate enough to do that.
Last question, as we're at the end of our time. Anything people should know about Papadakis Racing that we haven't talked about?
Oh, geez. I think that, you know, there's a lot of racers that you have on here that really love racing, and we love racing. But at the core of it, we're automotive enthusiasts, and everybody here at the shop has some sort of hot rod car, whether it's an off-road four-wheel drive truck or an old 90s, you know, hot rod Honda, or I've got an old 72 Toyota Celica. And, you know, we're all just enthusiasts that also love to race. And that's the core that brought us up to racing, not necessarily racers that just happen to be in the motorsport space. So I know there's a lot of enthusiasts out there that aren't necessarily into racing, and I get it, but we you know, I guess we're doing both. But yeah.
Well, you're an inspiration for all of us, Stephan. I mean, what you have accomplished is amazing, and we love your energy, your enthusiasm, your passion, and you are the you know, this new generation of engine builders, tuners, fabricators that are taking the industry into new level, and new audience too. I mean, that's very important. So thank you for everything you do, and what a pleasure to have you on. So Mike, and actually Formula Drift is on later today. So we're going to have Ryan from Formula Drift later today with us. So
registering on EPARTRADE is easy. To start, click on the Join for Free button on the homepage. First, search your company to see if it's already in our database. If you see your company on the list, click on it to select it. Then, choose Claim Company if you are one of the decision makers, an owner, marketing person, or main company contact. Or choose Join Company if you are an employee, and press Continue. If you couldn't find your company in our database, select Register a New Company. On the following page, fill out your name, email, phone number, job title, and choose a secure password. If you chose Register a New Company, you'll need to choose your business type. Select Supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose Racing Business if you're looking to source new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose Race Team if you own or are a member of a professional race team. Then, enter your company name. Please provide a website, Facebook page, or LinkedIn if you have one, and choose to either claim or join the company. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Finally, click Register Now and your registration will be submitted for approval. An email will be sent to your inbox. Please confirm your email address and you will be approved shortly. Welcome to EPARTRADE.